Hi guys. I know what you're thinking, am I mad because people from my ranking didn't make it? No. I'm mad because of how this episode was made. Like, it was the episode that made me the most uncomfortable because of the editing. I already expected some of my picks wouldn't make it, so it was actually better than I thought. But let's get through this, cause we will find out now who are the other 6 girls to go to part 2. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and don't forget to like. Thanks. So, I've just watched the episode live, and I was really worried about some people not getting to part 2, but it was better than I thought. I made a video about my ranking and who I thought could go to part 2 and eventually debut, and I had great surprises with this voting. The episode started with a quick recap of everything that happened on part 1, with some highlights about some girls, including that classic scene of the Jeeun vs Jonghyun drama that they reutilize in every single episode and that we are already tired of seeing that again. This episode was shorter than the others and it was just about the elimination. 8 girls will go home and 6 will stay, although I was waiting for a plot twist and them saving 2 more girls, a wild dream that was obvious that wouldn't happen because the island house is made for 12 only. I think it's so sad to say goodbye to 8 people at once. They could have more tests with smaller eliminations. They show us a quick recap of the 6 chosen girls and what they expect from part 2, and this time these recaps were truly quick. They didn't make it long until the eliminations, which is a positive thing. The chosen girls will watch from the screen, inside the island area, not on stage. They did it different from other survival shows I've watched. They first called 4 people to be eliminated, and then they started calling the names of who made it to part 2. Just a reminder of how the voting worked. We voted for 1 week, 1 vote per mobile per day, and we could choose 6 people. 50% of the votes are Korean and 50% are global. They will be combined and converted to points. I was scared about this because we know how this kind of voting goes, so I was afraid all the foreigners wouldn't make it and someone nobody expected would make it, but fortunately everything went normal. They call the 4 lowest ranks, in a quite fast way. The 14th position was Yuna with 205,000 points, and when they were called they had the chance to say their last words. The second one to be called was Chaeeun with 283,000 points, ranking 13th. It's funny cause she was always crying so hard when someone was eliminated before, but today she seems calm. I even thought her speech was cute cause she said she is happy to be eliminated at 13th, when she started as 24th in episode 1. The 12th position was Choi Soul with 321,000 points. The 11th position was Jiwon with 328,000 points. The 4 girls were sent home before they continued announcing the ranking, but they are all young and I think they will have a bright future ahead. Now the problem starts, and I'm sorry but you will see me getting mad, not about the girls, but about how this was done. From now on they will say who are the 6 survivors, but they use that method of calling out 3 or 2 names, saying things like, the person was the center, or, the person was in that song, so the expectation stays between 2 girls, then they call the one that was chosen. They start by the 4th position on the ranking. She had 1.643 million points. They reveal she was in the whistle unit and was an islander in the final song test. That lead us to Sujung and Yui, and after a lot of suspense, it was Sujung. I expected her to be between 3rd and 5th place based on online voting I've seen, so it was no surprise, she would for sure go to part 2. She gave her speech and immediately went to the metaball to find the other islanders. Yui is getting anxious, and the camera focuses on her a lot during this episode, as well as LingLing and Yeeun. Next, they would reveal the 3rd position, with 1.722 million points. They reveal this person was in baggy jeans performance and has done the center position during the show. What a wide clue. They led that to Yuju and Yui, and honestly I don't think they needed to call Yui again, although I know Yuju and Yui have a lot in common in the performances they made. There was no chance Yui would be in 3rd place, she could be at 5th or 6th. But calling her out twice in a row when we know she wasn't a Korean's favorite was a bit unnecessary cause imagine how nervous she is, it was visible already. The reason why I'm saying this is cause they did this again, so they didn't need to do this right from the start, but we'll get there. Obviously, it was Yuju. I'm happy she is getting that much attention now. I was scared for her before, but it seems Korea likes her and the general public has been ranking her higher than I thought. Now they will announce the 1st and 2nd place together. It's funny and sad to see the girls mentioning LingLing so many times, cause I think they thought the global votes would rank her at 1st place, when in reality the global fans' votes weren't as high as expected. Even I expected more. She isn't one of my picks, but I thought a lot of Asian countries would vote for her. And I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous how they show us the image of the gifts votes on Mnet's app, with Jeemin and LingLing being the ones to get 100% of it, when in that voting Koreans weren't worth 50% of votes and not everybody was collecting the metaballs to vote. It's not comparable to the actual voting. LingLing had a big disadvantage since Korea placed her at 13. The first place on the ranking got 2 million points. That's a lot higher than the other positions. Can you guess who it was? They say the one of the candidates was in the creative unit test, revealing to be Jeemin, and the second one came from another country, surprisingly being Koko. The girls got really surprised as they were expecting LingLing to rank second. Yui and Koko interacted when she went to the center of the stage and I got so sad. Oh my god, I'm feeling so bad. They are friends for 5 years and Yui got teared up. I wanted them to be together in part 2. In the end, Jeemin was first and Koko second, with 1.8 million points. I'm really happy for Koko because I was afraid she wouldn't even get to part 2, but Korea ended up voting for her too. The top 4 were in these positions both in Korea and globally. The remaining contestants are even more nervous and sad to hear the cheers on Island. Yui was already crying and LingLing got her head down. The 5th place on the ranking got 1.077 million points. They say the person was in Island for the seesaw game, which means she was in whistle or panorama, and she was in a dance unit in the unit battle. You already know, right? Getting Yui to be a possible winner again, as if they didn't do it 2 times already. It was between her and Juwon, and of course Juwon was the winner, but I was starting to believe Yui would be the 6th place and this would be the best survival show of my life, since my top 12 would be in part 2. Because they kept showing her non-stop, getting her to be between the 2 possible people for 3 times, I mean, why all that? I was even surprised and happy Juwon was there because there was a chance of her not getting to part 2 either, so I started to have hope. Yui was crying a lot and they made sure to show it since the beginning. Everybody was surprised Juwon got in. Jeeun says LingLing isn't even in 5th place too, being shocked, and they say Yeeun is also popular and that Koreans' votes are worth 50%. I think they started to realize it. Now there's only 1 spot left and the tension gets bigger. They will call 3 names this time. The girls were really nervous. The most desperate one was Yui, but Yeeun was almost crying too, and the girls in Island start trying to guess who it will be. They called Yeeun first, then Gyuri. LingLing said she was doomed, maybe realizing the preference now was Korean. Then they show Yui turning backwards because she couldn't stop crying and the Island girls were feeling sad for her. I imagine Koko must be really sad. Then they call Yui as 3rd candidate. Well, I thought they used Yui 4 times in this little guessing game to maybe give her the last place and compensate the therapy she will go through, but no. The last girl to make it to part 2 is Gyuri. I thought she could be the one because there were many comments about her when the voting started and Korea wasn't voting for Yui, but they liked Gyuri a lot. She had 1.036 million points, Yui had 1.028 million and Yeeun had 726,000, being the ranking 6, 7, and 8. Apart from one of my picks not being there, this is the most coherent top 12 I've ever seen in a survival show, so I'm happy and surprised. And just so we have a vision about how Korean versus global votes works for the next voting, Gyuri had 70,000 votes from Korea and 405,000 globally, while Yui had 59.9 thousand votes from Korea and 470,000 globally. That means 10,000 Korean votes are worth more than 70,000 global votes, cause that's the difference they had. It changes according to the percentage of votes, but we can see Korean votes make such a difference. A few more Korean votes and Yui could have surpassed her, cause they had very few points of difference in total. It's a nice curiosity to look at for the next voting and prepare in case your favorite isn't popular in Korea. But yeah, I'm happy for Gyuri, but I'm really angry at how they kept making Yui have hope for nothing when calling their names. Like, honestly, why did they call her 4 times to be eliminated in all of them? Weren't there any other clues to give and have a different girl being called? That's so messed up. They kept focusing the camera on her crying for the whole episode. They made her have hope 4 times, just to eliminate her. I felt so bad watching this repetitive thing. What was their intention? Humiliate her? Or give her a lot of screen time to seem nice? I really don't get it. In my opinion, it was really disrespectful to get the same girl to be there crying 4 times out of the 5 where they called names. There were 10 girls there before they started calling names. Minsol wasn't called even once, Gyuri was called only to win as well as Juwon, and Yeeun was called just to lose. They didn't need to call her 4 times. That was ridiculous, and I would defend no matter who this would happen to. It could be Yeeun right there. I would think it was equally awful. Yui was one of my picks and I already knew she wouldn't make it because she was low in some popularity polls online, but she didn't know how the voting was going. They thought LingLing would be one of the first most voted there, when we already knew she wasn't getting that many votes. They gave Yui fake hope 4 times. That was disgusting. But let's think positive. All the eliminated girls are young and will debut in the future if they keep going like this. I'm more scared for LingLing because of age, but since she was in a big survival show, I think she can still debut in Korea or maybe in another country. Moving on with the episode, they greet Gyuri and she goes to ILAND. At least now they will give her more screen time, cause she used to have very little of it. The remaining girls give their last speech, with LingLing speaking English and Yui Japanese. Minsol had 663,000 points ranking 9th, and LingLing had 444,000 points ranking 10th. I'm honestly sad for her. I thought she would rank higher. Since they leave the building with different clothes, I think they had time to say goodbye to the other girls. After this, they show us a little background story for the girls. It was nice knowing more about them. I have some highlights to make. I had no idea Mai was a dancer. Maybe I lost something in the first episode? I remember them talking about her looks, but not that she was part of a dance club. I'm surprised at how Jungeun seemed to have a darker skin before. It seems she's whiter in ILAND. I kept thinking about the whitewashing that Korea used to make on pictures and videos, and also how some idols got more white. Even after all this, I've seen comments of people complaining about her skin color and she is not doing that well on Korean voting polls. This is so sad to see. I hope she can get high on the voting ranking. Jeeun said she is a countryside girl, and that she used to live with her dad and some animals, and she also said some things that match with what I said about her in episode 3, during the Like Ooh performance and the feedback she got from the producers. She said she wants to do well, so when things don't work out as she wanted, she gets frustrated, because she is so trapped in her own world that the bad feelings eat her up. She said in part 2 she needs to control herself more and be stronger, and said she will be a new Jiyeon. That's her words, not mine, but I said the same thing in that episode, that she was so immersed in her own world and putting too much pressure on herself she forgets about the team, and some people said I was crazy. Now we have an answer. For Jeemin's throwback they didn't show anything of her youth, they showed the Ryu Next Survival show instead. They showed ILAND again, as they always get the same clips to talk about her, so we know nothing new about her past, but she said she will challenge herself more and show how she can do everything. Fuko talked about leaving her life behind to move to Korea. And Koko made a video call with her mom and got me emotional. The last minutes have some instructions for part 2 and a preview of the next episode. The name of the part 2 is Final Countdown and the debut group will be decided in 4 weeks from there. Now it's an individual match until the end, and the ranking from 1 to 12 will be revealed after each test, with benefits for the highest rankings. 3 tests will determine the finalists and they will combine producers' choices with our votes. They don't show us the number of members, but someone said that's too little, so it was probably less than 7. Now we know it was only 6. The voting for this season went from this episode until June 27th, and we could only pick 3 girls. Well, that was it. Did all of your picks get into part 2? What do you expect for now? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Bye.